Welcome to Rathalos Watch. This is the 4th episode of Should X Monster Return to Monster Hunter Wilds. Today we'll be discussing Qurupeco, a vibrant colored monster that loves to play with fire and summon minions and boss monsters. As always, we'll delve into the monster in greater detail, covering its first appearance, overall reception, memorable aspects, visual design, combat style, and ultimately whether it should return to Monster Hunter Wilds. We'll explore how Capcom could potentially bring back the monster, what they should or shouldn't change, what new interactions they could implement, and how the monster could fit into the next generation of Monster Hunter in terms of its mechanics and design philosophies. Without further ado, let's begin. Qurupeco is classified as a bird wyvern and was originally introduced in Monster Hunter 3 when it was released on August 1st, 2009 in Japan and on April 20th, 2010 in the USA, followed by April 23rd for Europe and April 29th for Australia. One quick thing to note is that Qurupeco only appeared in the 3rd generation of Monster Hunter and has never made a return in any of the generations after. This bird has been on a hiatus ever since Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, which was released all the way back on December 10th, 2011. Qurupeco is perhaps the most interesting bird wyvern that exists in all of Monster Hunter. At first, it just looks like a harmless, colorful dodo dinosaur-like bird that doesn't really do much, but in actuality it can be an incredibly dangerous monster if not properly handled by the hunter. Monster Hunter has a lot of bird wyverns that are all unique in their own way, including a young Kutku, young Garuga, Gypsaurus, Hypnocatrus, Great Macaw, Great Jaggy, Malfestio, Acnosum, and many others that I will be discussing in future videos. I've decided to cover Qurupeco first because I believe he is underrated, and quite a few of you in the comments have also requested that I talk about this beautiful looking firebird. It's also worth noting that Qurupeco is not the largest bird wyvern in terms of size, and that they can range from the smallest gold crown size of 772.8 centimeters to the largest gold crown size of 1085.4 centimeters. Fun fact, Gypsaurus is actually the largest one out of all the bird wyverns, but we'll discuss Gypsaurus in his own video later down the line. Hunters can encounter Qurupeco for the very first time in a 3-star village quest, Playing with Fire, that takes place in the Sandy Plains biome in Monster Hunter 3. The objective is to simply hunt him down. In case you didn't know, the deserted island, Misty Peaks, and Monsoon Plains are also biomes where the Qurupeco can reside. Qurupeco's visual design is awesome. He has a fanged beak with leathery wings. The majority of the skin color is lime green with a few bits of scales and a bit of tinted yellow coloring as well. He also has a short, stubby brown crest that extends from the back of his head. Qurupeco's most signature visual feature is the large, bright red vocal sac that inflates when he starts summoning monsters. The crest also starts to stretch out over the top of its head and turns into a megaphone-like shape that amplifies the calling. Qurupeco is weakest to the ice element, and his beak and flints on his wings are breakable. Hunters can break both of the flints, one on each of the 2 wings. Qurupeco is so memorable not only because of its colorful looks and the loud noises it makes, but rather the fact that he is a summoner that can call out for minions or even boss monsters by mimicking their sounds. Qurupeco can also buff and heal allies and himself. He is essentially a living hunting horn, a summoner and a bard for the monsters. Great Jaggy, Rathian, Royal Ludroth, Melnix, Jaggy, Renoplos, and Barroth can all come in to aid him during the hunter-killer quest. However, on a higher rank quest, be prepared to have Rathalos, Diablos, and even everyone's favorite pickle, Devil Joe, join the fray. Hunters can counter the summoning by throwing out a sonic bomb as the calling is happening. But if you fail, then you better get ready to use that dung bomb to make the Qurupeco flee to a different area, if you don't want to become dinner for both the Devil Joe and Qurupeco. It's also worth noting that different biomes will have different summon minions. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do not believe any other bird wyvern does anything like this. Young Kutku simply spits out fire at you, charges, and tries to peck you from time to time. Gypsaurus likes to poison you, whip you from behind with his bulbous stretchy tail, stun you with his flash ability, and then pretend to play dead to try to hit you for a lot of damage. Hypnocatrus doesn't do much at all other than trying to put you to sleep by spitting out colorless mist, but despite that, he is quite agile and quick. As I said previously, each of those monsters deserve its own thorough discussions, but I thought it would be a good idea to bring them up quickly to demonstrate just how unique Qurupeco is because of his ability to summon other monsters to gain an advantage in a battle over the hunters. As a fire-based monster, Qurupeco is also able to spark up and ignite fire using his wings like flint to create explosions. This ability is always telegraphed in advance and is quite easy to dodge. Just roll out of the way and keep your distance when he is preparing to clap you with his explosions. Sometimes he will also hover in the air and spit out mucus at you, and if it lands, your fire resistance will decrease. If Qurupeco dances, that means he's preparing to buff himself, and the color of the buff will signify what kind of a buff it is. Green will be healing, red for attack boost, orange and brown for defense, and yellow for stamina. However, if you throw a sonic bomb to startle him during the dance, the buffs will instead go to you as the hunter, and if you're in a party without hunters, they won't get the buff unless they stagger the Qurupeco themselves. Also, Qurupeco's beak tends to be out of reach and can be challenging to break, so the best thing to do is to put down a pitfall or a shock trap and hammer on it as much as possible. Let's also not forget the Crimson Qurupeco, which is a subspecies of the Qurupeco. This variant sports red and blue colors for its body, is larger in size and more aggressive, and has electric flints instead of fire. This fellow will create large shocks of electricity and can inflict Thunderblight ailment. The Crimson is also capable of creating a bright flash that will temporarily blind hunters just as Gypsaurus would. It's also weakest to ice just like its original monster. Also, make sure to bring the earplug skill, because otherwise you won't be able to block the roar of this monster. Its vocal sac is also not as visible on its own, but you will start seeing it once it starts the calling. And yes, you can interrupt both the dance and the summoning with a sonic bomb, just like the original Qurupeco. Another unique thing about this variant is that it can play a song that will let the summoned monsters instantly enter rage mode. Last but not least, this variant can call in both a regular and a green Nargacuga. Now that we've gone over both the Qurupeco and the Crimson Qurupeco, it's time to ask the question of whether this monster should be returning to Monster Hunter Wilds. The answer is an absolute yes, and there are quite a few reasons why I believe that this monster should return. There are two big reasons why this monster needs to come back, and Capcom really has no excuse not to bring him back. The first big reason is that Qurupeco perfectly fits into the Monster Hunter Wilds design philosophy. As Capcom has mentioned multiple times already, the biggest thing for them is immersion and a much more dynamic ecosystem. This is literally the game where Qurupeco could shine in his full glory, be remade completely from the ground up, and built into the fantasy of what Monster Hunter Wilds is supposed to deliver. Imagine coming across a random Qurupeco in Windward Plains, and he immediately starts to summon monsters throughout the biome, and all the creatures hear it. Now, I am not exactly sure how the game would determine which monsters come in, or how they interact to aid the Qurupeco, but that's for Capcom to decide. But the possibilities are endless. But my point is that his summoning abilities can really be taken to the next level. It can be a lot more threatening this time around. Maybe he can also use it as an escape tool when it's near death. For example, it could summon a nearby Chotacabra when it's low on health to distract the hunter and goes to its lair and sleep to heal up. This would also be much more realistic, grounded, and immersive, and this is what Capcom has been preaching in marketing for the last few months. Another big reason why he should come back is that he has been missing since the generation he was introduced in. As I previously mentioned, Qurupeco was introduced to the world of Monster Hunter in Monster Hunter 3. He then made an appearance in Monster Hunter Portable 3rd, which was a Japanese-only release, and then in Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. It's been well over a decade since anyone has seen this monster in any of the flagship titles. However, it is worth noting that he did make an appearance in both of the Monster Hunter story games, and other spin-offs such as Monster Hunter Riders, Monster Hunter Explore, Monster Hunter Spirits, and most recently released mobile game Monster Hunter Puzzles, Feline Isles. But Capcom did not put him into World, Iceborne, Rise, or Sunbreak, and I'm not quite sure what the reasoning was. He is a bird wyvern, so it's not a skeleton problem like Icris had. Icris is the one who I've discussed in the very first episode of this video series, so make sure you watch it if you haven't seen that video yet. You can click on the card on the top right. I would love to see Qurupeco come back to Wilds, because I also believe the interactions he could have with other creatures would be very interesting to see and a sight to behold. This would really make the experience much more immersive thanks to his summoning abilities. His visual design is already great, and I know for sure it could look even better on the new engine. Qurupeco was voted in the top 86th place in the Hunter's Choice for Top Monster during Monster Hunter's 20th anniversary, so he is already more popular than Congalala and Bulldrome, which we've discussed in previous videos. Whether that makes a difference in what Capcom decides to include or not in their future titles, I have no idea, but it's worth mentioning anyway. If Qurupeco does not return in the 7th generation period, I will be quite disappointed. I see no reason for him not to come back. I do not care if it's going to be in the base version of Monster Hunter Wilds or its upcoming expansion. He has been missing for far too long and has a great mechanic that would work well with Capcom's new design philosophies. Only time will tell what happens with Qurupeco, but I'm hoping for the best, but expecting the worst. Let me know what you fellow hunters think about this, and if you want Qurupeco to return or not, and why. I hope you enjoyed the 4th episode of Shoot X Monster Return to Monster Hunter Wilds. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe with notifications turned on. Peace out and happy hunting.